Hello, Eastern Ace friends. It's it's Philip Wilkerson and Bob back with another episode of Conversations with Bob and Phil. We're so happy that you're able to join us today. As you can see, Bob is dressed very nice. I'm at the lake on vacation. Shout out to the summer. But what we have a few announcements. We just had a wonderful Eastern Ace virtual conference. Shout out to everyone that was involved. It was wonderful, from the keynote to the programs to the conference experience. Plug for myself and Bob and my team. And it was just a wonderful time. Please, in the meantime, do not wait to get involved. We will probably, over the course of the year, we'll be launching, Eastern Ace will be launching a mentorship program, which will help, get you connected with someone that's more seasoned in the organization to really feel involved, as well as the applications just closed for the Eastern Ace committees. But, never know. Maybe they might need some assistance. They might need someone to tap into your talents. There's webinars, Twitter chats, and there's a lot of things getting involved. And I believe, Bob, the Eastern Ace conference has already been announced. Do you know the date?
So June 22nd, June 24th, back in Atlantic City at the Borgata. Can't wait to have everyone come to the Atlantic City area, enjoy. So sign up early, sign up often. I know some of you had amazing presentations. Obviously, we had an amazing keynote, an amazing closing, great presentations, great fun. This is 2 years in the making. Really can't miss this. So June 22nd to June 24th in Atlantic City. I know the committee is already hard at work making sure that's going to be one of the best conferences Eastern Ace has ever seen. So we hope to see you there next year.
All right. So without further ado, we're going to we're going to have our guest. We have El Presidente-Elect. Keyword, I have to make sure I get that right. We don't want Jill to come out our neck.
Jill, as we see you, we love you, Jill.
But we have a wonderful gentleman by the name of Junior Delgado. He's been super involved in Eastern Ace. Really, I look to him for his leadership, and he's going to be taking us to the next level next year or the year after, whatever. I don't know how that works. He's currently a director at Westfield State University up in Massachusetts. I know I probably pronounced that word incorrectly, which I always do. But we're really excited to have this guest on. So without further ado, Junior Delgado. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, fellas. I'm so happy to be here. On a Friday, no less. So excited to be here with you guys.
Well, you're Friday fresh with the bow tie, and you look good. I know you feel good. So without further ado, we always like to start with the origin story. So for us, please bring us back to the beginning, how you got involved with Eastern Ace.
So very, very simply, it has been a long time. I will say first, if my camera does go out, you'll still hear my voice, but I will immediately turn on the camera again. It's something with our computer here at work. But I have been involved in Eastern Ace since, I'm going to say, my first conference, which was Philadelphia 2001, which the hotel no longer exists because it was torn down. And at that conference, I was able to make some great connections. One of my lifelong friends, Dr. Walter Tarver, I met at that conference, and we've been going strong as friends for over 20 now. So again, I think when I came into the profession looking for organizations, my supervisor at the time did present a lot of options. And some of the options that she presented, I felt at that time, I needed to build a base that was more regional, more local, people in schools that I could relate to and learn from. And so NACE was presented, but it was just too big at the time as a young professional for me. And I couldn't have been more right in selecting the Eastern Association of Colleges and Employers for my first conference. Like I said, there have been lifelong connections from that conference that have gone 20 plus years. I found the sessions to be very appealing, sessions that really did speak to me as a young professional at that time. And then the best part was the opportunity to get involved. And so engagement and involvement was a thing for me that I saw as being important. And as I've come through all these years, it's being able to give back. It's encouraging new professionals or people entering this profession to be able to engage and to volunteer as well. So that's the thing that I think it's come full circle for me.
So what I'm hearing is that, Eastern ACE 2001 tore it down? Is that you just tore the hotel, did not return because of how great Eastern ACE, the conference, was in Philly? Is that what I'm hearing?
So good that the place absolutely was
absolutely is no longer with us. So, Junior, tell us about how you got into your role now. So we have a lot of people that watch these and go, I want to advance in my career. We've been lucky enough to have Jen Rossi Long, Jill Milan, Martha Gum. So we've had such a wide array of people out. So tell us, Dr. Monroe was mentioned on this. So tell us about how your path, how did you get into career services? How did you get into leadership? Kind of talk people through that.
So thank you. That's a great question. And it's funny because I always have people that reach out on LinkedIn and on some other vehicles to ask those types of questions. How did you get to where you are? And I think one of the things that I'm going to say, it's always been about learning. And so wanting to learn and wanting to continue to grow as a professional. And it so happened that I transitioned out of admissions because that was my first role in higher education. And then I came over to a position called Coordinator of Senior Programs, which was working at our university at Westfield State. So it's funny, I share this story in a lot of circles, but I have been in my office for the entire time that I've been at Westfield. So for almost 22 years, I've been in the same office. The furniture has changed. I've gotten a little bit older and the hairs have gotten whiter, but the office is still the exact same. But one of the things that I would say, which is really interesting about that position, we were having a problem at the university engaging our seniors and connecting to the Career Center. And our supervisor at the time worked very diligently to get the role, to get the position. And I was hired. I was fortunate to be hired. It's something that I don't take for granted. I'm thankful every day for the opportunity to work in higher ed, work with students, and hopefully change some lives and steer people in the right path. At least it makes them happy, and happiness is hopefully what the journey is about at the end of all of this. And through that role, we were able to engage tremendously on campus with our seniors to the point where I think at that time I called it guerrilla marketing. So you're talking about 2001, 2000, somewhere in that range, and it was guerrilla marketing. And one of my tactics was, which I think I got spoken to by the director of facilities or the vice president of facilities at that time, please stop postering the heck out of our campus, because rather than put one poster in one section, I would put 25 of the same posters in one big square. And then when we would ask people, how did you hear about this? They would say, how could you not? There was about 50 posters in every section that you would turn to. So I would do one in one hallway, the next hallway, you couldn't miss it. So we've evolved from that. And moving into the profession over the years, I happen to be, again, and I'm going to use the word very fortunate and blessed, that my supervisor at the time was a person that really pushed for me to continue to advance, and that helped. But it was also learning and asking a lot of questions. Tell me about the budget. How does that work? Tell me about on-campus relationships. How are you developing those? Who are people that I should be connecting with? Who are individuals that I should be having conversations with? Because every campus has what I call a political system, and you have to understand and learn what the political system is. You can't come into any meeting too hot and think that you're gonna blow people out of the water by saying what you think is going to change the game without understanding where the politics lie on whatever that issue might be. So learning to navigate that on our campus was something my supervisor, I'm going to say, was an expert and really did teach me about those roles. And then throughout the years, she just continued to promote me. And about 11 years ago, she had the opportunity to go over to academic affairs. And she said, this is the perfect time to move you into the role of director of the Career Center. I think you're ready. You've been trained. We've worked. You've done a lot of work, like I said, on budgeting, staffing, supervising. And it was just all things that I was like, if she can do this, I can do this, but I just have to learn everything that she's doing behind the scenes. And that's a lot of what I give her credit for teaching me those things. That's how I got it.
Well, shout out to you and your full career, man. We might have to have a Delgado Hall. I mean, saying, being a placeholder at Westfield State, if you do, invite me to the ribbon cutting. So you spoke to Walter Tarver, bringing you in, and he's going to be a guest on our show in a couple of months, which is great. So speak to that mentorship and the people that you look up to pulling you in. Who are some other people, and then how did those relationships not benefit you, but how do they work to get you involved?
I think Walter primarily was one of the key people early on. And it was about, hey, Have you thought about joining a committee? Have you thought about joining this organization? And from there, it was just meeting. I mean, this is how I've met a lot of the folks in Eastern EACE, Jill, and there was Scott Rappaport and Helen Brown and some of the past presidents, Linda Kent Davis. I mean, we're going back years and years of meeting different presidents and just sitting during the conferences and having conversations with them. What's your leadership like? What is it that you envision for the organization? How do you want to move us forward? But Walter, like I said, was one of those individuals who was just consistently the constant push, like, hey, someday you could be president of the organization. We want to get you there, but here are the steps that you have to take. And from that, I mean, it was committee after committee involvement. Then it was 2 different conferences. So co-chair of a virtual conference and co-chair of an in-person conference. So I've had the 2 mixes. I'm not sure which one I prefer because they're both a lot of work. But I think that having those mentors throughout the organization for many years, and this is how I met Jill, this is how I met Jen, who will always be Jen Rossi to me. And I know she's on here, so shout out Jen, but I know she's Jen Long now. But these are people that I've had relationships over the years with, and they've just been good friends, good colleagues, individuals that continually push you to be better, to want to make the organization better, and then to bring along more talent. I mean, because that's where we are right now. It's bringing along more talent, getting more people involved. We don't have all the answers, but collectively together, we can definitely make this organization continue to rise and continue to grow. So the mentorship, I'm going to say, unbelievable, the mentorship, because people will push you to be your best. And there are times where you don't think, and I hear this from people, I don't know that I can do that. I don't know that I can co-chair that committee. I don't know that I can run this. Believe me, you can do it because there is a support system that will help you to get there, and nobody's going to let you fall flat on your face. Shout out to Jen Rossi, saw that.
Oh no, that's fantastic. So during the pandemic and during COVID, everyone's had to pivot in a lot of special ways. You led a lot of very strategic, creative, new initiatives, especially on LinkedIn, especially on Instagram. And now that you tell your story about guerrilla marketing 20 years ago, it makes a lot of sense. Can you talk about some of the things that you did to engage your students and some of the things, what that transition was for you and how that still carried on for you throughout the last year and a half?
So that's a great question. And so I think the one thing that I will share, which was really interesting. So during the pandemic, I think I left for 1 week. I went home for 1 week, and after that was enough. I knew that it wasn't going to happen for me at home. So I came back to the office, and it was a lot of long, lonely months here in this office, but I was the only person here, but I was in person every single day. And for my work style tended to be much better. I think being at home, there was just a lot of distractions. Plus, with my 7-year-old, it was like, you'd get off a meeting. Can we play now? No, I got to get into another meeting. Can we play now? Nope, got to get into another meeting. So I started to feel horrible. So I was like, if I'm in the office, at least there's a disconnect. So I go to work and then I come home from work. And so trying to think about ways to really engage our students. And I think one of the things that you're talking about, which was just a brainchild of just a thought. And it was, how do we help our seniors for that class that was going on? And they were devastated. I mean, that class of 2020 was devastated. There are still some 2020 members still looking for work. We're seeing it at schools across the country where people are still advising some of the class of 2020 members. And so one of the easiest ways was, let's just put it out there as it is. And so we came up with that Ready to Work campaign, which was, here are seniors, they're ready to work. And it was just who they are, what their majors were, what their areas of interest were, and where they were looking to work. And I think that first person that we put out, that on LinkedIn received something to the tune of about 12,000 views or hits. So, and over 150 likes. So it was just people that hadn't seen it in that way. And then this duplication started, which I was so happy to see that schools across the country, we were getting phone calls. Hey, how did you do this? How do you pick people? Is it just undergrads? Is it graduates? And we were so happy to help, because if it wasn't one of my grads, it was somebody else's grad, but we wanted to help. And so I think we heard from a total of about 16 or 17 schools that want to reproduce it in some which way, shape, or form. The other one that we thought of is, let's just, and again, it almost goes back to that guerrilla marketing. Let's just take it to people. And so we came up with, and I sat with our associate director and we talked about this, and we came up, and we still do this every week. We did our Get Employed, and we did our internship spotlight. And that's something we put out every week. We pick 5 random areas because we have so many different majors and career fields. And what we do is, from those, We'll share those out every single week on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been a big vehicle. Shout out to Saul. That's my guy right there. So I didn't know he was on the call, but Saul, hope you're doing well, you and the family. But again, trying to find things that connected with students. Students were burnt out. Students were tired of Zoom. Students were also, just like staff members, we were all burnt out and trying to find creative ways. But I think that the big process that we took away as an office when we talked about this, how do we simplify everything that we're doing? When we're doing a program, where's the value in the program? Let's keep it short and simple. So if we're going to do a LinkedIn presentation, we're doing a 30-minute LinkedIn presentation. We're not going back to the 1 hour, hour and a half. People don't have that. They didn't have that capacity to be online for that long. Heck, we didn't have the capacity to be online for that long. So I think it was always being strategic in the way that we thought about our students and putting our students first and saying, what would our students need? And then we also reached out to students and asked them, like, what is it that you want? And some students were like, we want A, but we don't want B. We want this, let's make it shorter. And then our faculty collaborations were the same thing. Faculty members would say, Junior, 30 minutes, 15 minutes or less, get it done. That's it. That's all our class has the capacity for. So we tried to do our best for students. Our university supported us, which was a good thing in the way that we were reaching out to students. And still, we were seeing alums, we were seeing students at the same time, but really trying to focus on each person as an individual and work with them as the best to connect them to whatever field or whatever employers they want to see or speak with or get in whatever industry they want to get into.
Well, I think it was great that one of the things I noticed is that you definitely echoed a lot of my sentiments was if other people can do it, I can do it too. And in regards to that co-chairing, I definitely felt that. I think I wrote about that in my Eastern EACE blog, that I felt a little bit of that insecurity, unsureness, but then it was the team that supported you. So I think it's great to see that people I look up to, such as yourself, may have felt that very early on, but then over time, you just kind of do it. You just realize that it's all about action. I definitely want to get back to that point because I know we talked about it on my podcast about the difference between a virtual conference and an in-person conference. And I think you said you're the only one, like I say, like a soldier boy, I'm the first, you're the first to do both of those experiences. So can you talk about, that pivot, that change? How did you still feel like you connected with the organization Eastern EACE in an in-person and virtual form?
So I'm going to say this, that I think that when you have an in-person conference, your meetings are very calculated. And so you have all your meetings scheduled out. And certainly as you get closer to the date, you meet a little bit more frequently. With the virtual conference, when we started planning an actual in-person conference, and then COVID hit. And so what I can tell you is, I think we met 4 times more than we had ever met all the way throughout that year, or right after the point, I think it came that March or that April that we met. And it felt like every single week, 2 or 3 times, we were talking about the conference, setting up sessions, working with all the conference committees to put this together. And what we really wanted at the end of that is still what you want in an in-person conference. You want the engagement. And certainly in that in-person conference, there's the face-to-face. You can stand in a room with somebody, people hug each other when they see each other. It's been a long time. So we tried to mimic some of that, and we tried to build in some sessions that we thought would be very engaging for people. And also thinking about the fact that everybody's going to be at home. They're going to be taking this conference from their house. They have responsibilities. They might have dinner time. They might have other things going on. So we wanted to take that into account as well and not try and overload people with a ton of programming. So I think that the difference, if I could say that there's a difference, I think it was just there was so many more meetings, and not that it's a negative thing. It's just you had to take into account everything with virtual. We had to make sure that the platform, that the technical aspects worked. If we had any problems, where would we mitigate those or fix those problems? Where in the in-person conference, you can do that more on in person, or like I'd say, you can do that on the fly and get into a room and fix something, talk to the audio person. Where with the technology, if it's not working, and we found that, and I think one of the things that was really interesting, there was a section, I think, of New York State or Long Island at that point when we had the virtual conference, where that night before they had a massive storm. And so people could not connect to their Wi-Fi. They couldn't get online. So we had those technical difficulties as well. So there was just a lot of components that we tried to think about with a virtual conference, that in person, yes, you still schedule it out, everything that's going to happen, and you do it the exact same way with the virtual. But I think with tech, there's just so much that can go wrong. cameras go out, speakers' mics don't work, there's feedback. So it's just both of those experiences. I can't tell you which one's better. Well, I can tell you which one's better. I prefer the in-person conference over the virtual. But again, nevertheless, I think both conferences were excellent conferences. The level of presentations, the speakers, the opening, the closers, they were both excellent conferences to be a part of. And so I can say that I was proud of those teams, and especially the team for that first virtual conference. That's my bomb squad. They came to the table, they brought it. This was something we were going to do for the first time, and every one of those members of those committees stepped up and delivered a great experience.
No, I was definitely, thank you for letting me fire up my generator to get on Eastern EACE a year ago. But no, kudos to you and Christine from St. Joe's. I know being on the sponsorships, we were calling people 11th hour, making deals that we've never made before. I'm like, if we can give them an hour of time, can we get $20? Can we get $30? So no, appreciate all that work. And then kudos to Amy and Jen this year again for a fantastic conference. It's never easy to go to that environment, but we still here, Phil?
Yeah, we're good. Just keep going.
Oh, good. Now I was like, damn. I'm like, I gave people props and you just cut the cord. I'm sorry.
That was because I was underdressed and I was upset. I just had to take a break.
I got to be listening to what I had to say, so you cut me off.
I was like, damn. All right. Okay. So, you talk about when you get involved with the conferences and even with your teams and said, how are you? I mean, we talked about the support that you received. How are you looking to support individuals? How can people make that outreach to you? Because I know a lot of times Eastern EACE is a very open environment, and sometimes it's daunting when you walk in and everyone is really legitimately ready to help. And sometimes you're like taken aback, like, are they serious, or is this really how everyone is here? How is it like on your teams or getting involved on campus? What are some steps you would tell a student or a new person in the field? Hey, what are some ways that you can help connect and get involved and get engaged other than just, go out and do it?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I will say this, and I'll take this back to the Eastern EACE conference in Hartford. And one of the things that came out of that as well is we wanted, when I was on the board at that time, and I think I was coming off the board that year, one of the things that we wanted to do is a conference. We've always been an open, welcoming group of individuals that have served on these conferences, that have served on boards. And one of the things that I thought was important, when people are coming into these conferences, we want to be able to stand there, the leadership of that whole group, and stand there and welcome people genuinely. Because what I saw from that, and I mentioned it to the board, and the board said, "Oh my God, absolutely, let's do it." Everybody was like, "I'm good, we're there." And so we stood outside of the main room when people were walking in, and what I saw was just, I couldn't be more happy. It was absolutely amazing to see people that were just saying hi, shaking hands. People hadn't seen each other in a year, hugging each other at the doorway. And I just stood back and I was watching all of this, and I was like, it just made people feel welcome to the organization. So that was something that I think we changed for the organization. I think it's hopefully going to be done at every in-person conference where the leadership is standing there welcoming people, because you do have new folks that are apprehensive, not sure. They're feeling the organization out, they're feeling people out to see, exactly what you said, Bob, are these people for real or not? And so when it comes to, I'll talk about my own team. I do have people that also reach out on LinkedIn and ask those specific questions. How do I get involved? Where has your career taken you? How did you get there? I want to go in that same direction. What were some of the specific committees that you've joined? And what it simply, for me, when I talk to my own team here on campus, and we have 3 other team members, is really about taking those first steps. If there's a hiring committee and they call for volunteers, getting on a hiring committee. The level of experience that you gain from that by meeting people from across campus, by meeting individuals, by understanding what it looks like from the other end. So maybe you sat on that other side and you were being interviewed, but now to be the interviewer and ask questions, to get other people's thoughts is also very important. And then when organizations call for volunteers, it's thinking about, okay, maybe I don't have the capacity or the time right now to join one of those big ones, but big committee, but maybe I have the capacity to do marketing and publicity, which is requiring me to be in a subcommittee. And so I think that's the way that I started out, in small committees, and then it just morphed into the professional exchange, and it went into the community service, and it just kept building and building and building. And I'll tell you, Phil, because this is a good one. When they called me and said, you want to be at the board of directors as the treasurer of the organization, I might have swallowed a couple of times and went, yeah, not sure about that. And so at that time, it took a couple of board members to have a conversation with me and talk about the support. So I did have some apprehension about that. Everybody does. But I learned a lot about the organization because you're learning the internal workings, you're learning the budgets, you're learning how conferences get built out. But again, all the things that I would say that I think are super important when it comes to getting involved is taking those first small steps. It doesn't have to be a large committee, but to help build your confidence, to help build your self-esteem, and to get known by campus members. And there's always people say, like, nobody knows me on my campus. I have people that say that to me all the time. And I'm like, there's one of two reasons. Either you're not getting out, or you're not participating, or you just don't want to be found. So that's the difference. I mean, if you don't want to be found, then okay, great. But for somebody who at least wants to start making some of those connections on your campus, if they ask for volunteers to come and staff a table for a student event, volunteer. It's a great way to meet more students. It's a great way to meet other individuals on your campus as well. So those are some of the most concrete steps that I even share with my own team when they're asking, like, where do I get involved? How should I get involved? And I am 100% a promoter of encouraging my team to get involved, to join organizations, to do professional development for themselves. Because again, they sometimes they're organizations that I'm not involved in, but they're taking away a lot of information. They're growing professionally, and they're growing as individuals within the field as well by being exposed to these other organizations.
Well, thank you for that. And I definitely have that problem too, of not being found at my campus because I'm so shy and not very loud.
Wait, what fraternity are you in again?
Hey, the oldest and the coldest. We all know that.
Just checking.
Yeah, So I think, I definitely want you to give the opportunity to do a mic drop. Let's say that someone joined, they didn't get a chance to watch this live, and they missed everything that we talked about, and you get to leave, one gem or imparting word on them. What would that be? And it doesn't have to be, it could be your work values or just any gem that you say, this is, my time. I really want you to know about this aspect. What would that be?
So the one thing that I would have to say is, where do you want to make a difference? That's the one thing. If you didn't hear anything today of anything that I've shared with all of you about getting involved in engagement, is if you work on a college campus, where do you want to make a difference? And so if it's the TRIO program, then get involved with the TRIO program on your campus. If it's athletics, get involved with athletics, because they're always looking for volunteers and people to welcome fans, whatever it might be. But where do you want to make a difference on your campus? Because as I've always said, we work on college campuses, and if you don't like students, then you are in the wrong line of business. And I say that all the time on my campus. The minute you stop liking students, I'm going to say that you really need to leave the field, because this is what we do. We are impacting lives every day, the conversations we're having, and we're hoping that we're helping students along the way towards their happiness. And so again, where is it that you want to make an impact?
No, that's serious. And I know I'm going to speak for Philip here, but I know as someone that was welcomed in the field by you and others that you name, obviously Walter and a bunch of others, we are so ridiculously thankful for this opportunity. Like, me and Philip fanboyed a little bit out, like, oh, well, we're going to talk. So we've been talking about this, but if you don't know, just know the impact that you have on Philip and I and so many others. We're just so appreciative of your time on a Friday afternoon, both tying up, making us rush out, get ties on. But again, for someone, just your candor, what you've done, and then really prompted both of us to push that comfort zone and get involved. I know I can't thank you enough and appreciate all the things that you've done for us, but I know there's so many others. So appreciate this on a Friday afternoon.
Thank you for the kind words. I do appreciate both of you. And again, I'm loving this show. I'm loving what you two are doing, and the way that you're taking this to new heights and interviewing folks that I respect, and individuals that are friends and colleagues. And so you two are hitting out of the park. And so I'll just share this for, hopefully he doesn't kill me, but Walter sent me a message last night and said, them dudes are killing it. Them dudes are killing it. So again, it is this show is amazing what you guys are doing, and how you're bringing visibility to the organization and individuals within the organization is amazing. So we appreciate you. So let's just say that.
Philip, you're on mute, man. Come on, man.
And I just cut him out too. I meant to do that easier. I meant to do that easier, like a little wrap up, but I just took him off the camera. But thank you, Junior. Junior was a great guest, and as we said, that definitely we were going to do this. I remember early on, before we even sent out a sign up, Genius, I was like, let's get Junior on the show, 100%. Before I even knew. I called it. I knew he was going to be president-elect. I mean, I don't know. I didn't. But
how many times you vote, Philip? Don't lie. You vote like 19 times? You're only kidding, Jill. Sorry.
Load the ballot. But thank you so much for everyone that's listening. I don't know the date, but I know it's we got one. We got two more left. One with Val Mata from Career Shift, and one with Walter in September. So take a check out for that. We'll be doing that. Please continue to stay engaged. Look at the website for other ways to stay engaged. Twitter chats are going to be resuming, I believe, in September. Don't quote me on that, fact check. But there's all things to do. I think this is also the summer. Summer is the time to gather more information before we get rolled up. I know a lot of Eastern EACE things are going to be kicking off in the fall. So if you're curious, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Bob, reach out to Junior, reach out to anyone in the comments, connect with them on LinkedIn and ask questions because as Junior said earlier, that's the way I learned as well as from other people. And that's the way I got more comfortable. So just make sure, use this time before the fall to really connect and engage. And thank you so much for all those that listen. And thank you and have a great Friday.
Have a good one.